What's up, Honey Badger Nation? This is John Kitchens, and this is episode 91 of Expert Mentors Live. Very excited for today's episode. We're going to talk salary cap. For all of you guys tuning in that don't know, John Kitchens, systems and process coach for real estate agents that, want to build a profitable business and not just sell more transactions. So obviously this topic is not sexy, but something that pretty passionate about, as you'll see as we go through today's episode. But before we jump in, just want to kind of share with you guys what Expert Mentors Live is all about. So 91 episodes in, and early on when we formed the Honey Badger Nation, we Daniel Beer and Kyle Whistle said, "Hey fellas, we need to put something together and take advantage of the opportunity that we have to tap into the horsepower of this group." As most of you know, there are so many talented people in the community, and so many of these people want to give back. So Expert Mentors Live allows us to leverage the horsepower of this community for all of our benefit, with live weekly trainings provided by some of the best agents on the planet. These calls are every week at noon Central, so go ahead and lock it into your calendar. And and on a little side note, leverage these trainings for your agent attraction efforts, sending the invite link, and giving people a taste of what they can align with and experience when they join the Honey Badger Nation. So cool. So let's jump in. I'm going to share my screen with everybody, so hang tight for 2 seconds. And let me hit this. Boom. All right. So cool. So this salary cap we've talked about several times in many different formats and capacities. Is one of the things that we dive into deep in our Kinder Reese University, the training program, coaching with us. And we've put together a masterclass series. There's 12 classes in the Exponential Growth Strategy Masterclass. And this is one of the classes on salary cap. And I really want for you guys to get to understand this, because it is about being profitable. And it's also about being crystal clear on managing your cash flow, especially for a lot of newer agents getting into new with us at EXP, and the bright shiny object that is agent attraction. And if you're an agent that's still in production and your business and livelihood really depends upon your production, there's a fine balance of allocation of time on deals and also working the agent attraction side of things, which is a little bit longer play for most. And it really comes down to being able to have eyes on the cash flow of your organization, of your business. And, one of the ways that we need to understand how we need to structure our business is this salary cap formula. So I'm excited to share that with you guys. So salary cap, in professional sports, is just an agreement or a rule that places a limit on the amount of money that a team can spend on player salaries. It's the NFL, right? We all hear that. Hey, what's this? They're over the salary cap. And, there's a penalty when you go over the salary cap. And so it's the same rule here, right? We have some foundations, some fundamentals, some guidelines within our organization that if we play within, that will allow us to bear the fruits and the profitability of our business, of our organization. So I'm gonna take you guys back in time to the that was the test kitchen, if you will, which was J. Kinder Real Estate Experts 2011. And we had just gone from being under the Coldwell Banker umbrella, where we spent our entire career. Jay licensed in 97. I came into the picture on board in 04, 05 licensed. Opportunity evaluating throughout 2010. Are we going to buy the Coldwell Banker franchise, or what are we going to do? And, after doing the math, over and over, we determined we're going to go independent. And we did. We, day one, 2011, we were independent, became J. Kinder Real Estate Experts, organization set up, and ran with that name and that brand and that company until we sold to Stace and Reedy a few years ago. And so just an awesome experience to be able to transition out of under that umbrella to your own, right? And we did. We really had this sense of ownership, and it was our baby that we really poured our heart and souls into. And then, oh boy, it hit the fan. It hit the fan in a hurry throughout that year. And, we were rocking and rolling, still number 2 in the market, as we always were, as there is a behemoth Remax team still in that market today. They're still out doing open houses every weekend. And, they do 500-600 transactions a year. We were always in the 3 to 521 was the most. And, we commanded double-digit market share, but we competed with them. And so we were rocking and rolling, man. We were able to do anything, and we were hiring and not really understanding how to really allocate our dollars. And here's the reality, guys. You got to remember, Lawton, Oklahoma, average sales price is $120,000. So think about that for a second. When you have me, that's not in production. You have Jay, 2011, that's really not in production, spending most of his time in Dallas with Michael, getting the coaching organization off and running. And so, me back head of company in 2011, we've got a salaried listing agent. We've got agents, we've got training, we've got this building, we've got all kinds of things going on, and not understanding how to get our dollars in alignment to where we can maximize profitability. And so we kind of woke up towards the end of 2011 and we're like, this is broke. This is just not working. And we started to seek a solution. And that solution was this book right here. And we were signed up, and we'd been working with, not working with, but under the guidance and the resources from Vern Harnish, Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. His Gazelles organization at the time, they've recently rebranded to Scaling Up, which is the follow-up to Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. And we subscribed and still subscribe to this day to Vern's newsletter. I highly, highly recommend you guys get on his newsletter list. You can go to scalingup.com, get on Vern Harnish's mailing list. It comes out every week. It's full of business information, especially for small business entrepreneurs like yourselves, to really tap into. And this was a book recommendation that came across in one of his newsletters towards the end of 2011. And immediately we gravitated to it, ordered the books, devoured it, went through it. And, we actually went to the point, we got on the phone with Greg and we said, Greg, we're flying you into Dallas. And so we flew Greg into Dallas. At the time, it was the guy with Michael's team, and also with the coaching organization that really helped Michael out with the numbers, the financial side. Obviously, what I was doing with Kinder was there, and we were picking Greg's brain. I was there selfishly because I knew our real estate business was broke. We were bringing in over $1 million in revenue, but we weren't keeping no damn money. And so it's like, man, it was just head scratch. Hey, we know this stuff's to work, whatever. We've got reporting on everything. And it's just like, well, if we cut here, then, we lose potential dip here. It was just whack. It was broke. So I was selfishly there, just like trying to pick Greg's brain as hard as I could. Right. And what we were able to really walk away from and really instill into the business were a lot of the principles that Greg shares in this book. But being able to spend that time with him and dissect and get our head around kind of what he teaches was just priceless. We then, I think 2012, we brought, that was our first year of Mastermind, and we did EGS in Phoenix that year. For all of you OGs listening in that were there, we had Greg come in and speak to our Mastermind crew that day. And then EGS 2013, I think we were at the Gaylord, and we had Greg come in and speak. I think he was on stage that year, and then he also spoke to our masterminds. Again, he was in a breakout session, I remember. And so we really got consumed with this. In fact, Jay and Mike hired Greg to run, the accounting side of things, to consult with and run the numbers and stuff on the coaching organization as they were growing it through those years. And a lot of our mastermind members hired Greg to do their numbers and stuff as well. But this is a must resource for all of you guys listening in. Simple numbers, straight talk, big profits. He breaks it down super simple. There's only a handful of numbers that you need to pay attention to. We'll talk about that today on this episode. But get the book, devour it, go through it. Watch this again, start to implement some of these things, and it'll help you get a really good framework of how you need to structure your business. And the first thing is pay yourself, right? Pay yourself. You've got to pay yourself first. Mike Malkowitz, man, I always have struggle saying his name, but he has a great book, great principles, Profit First. I highly recommend devouring that as well and understanding his methodology and framework. And a lot of it kind of carries in here on what we're going to talk about from Greg's principles and teachings as well. So pay up, sucker, right? Pay yourself first. And it is extremely important that you understand that. And so you're like, okay, cool, I get that, but how much should I pay myself? Well, Malkowitz is going to give you a percentage. Greg is going to teach you something called market-based wage, right? You have to be able to pay yourself a market-based wage for what you do, right? Whereas a lot of folks are just, going out and whatever, they want, they take, they use and set up their business like their personal piggy bank. Hey, guilty, right? We were guilty. We did the same damn thing. And this is what was throwing us off, right? You have to pay yourself for what you do in the business. Here's where we are off. We were still paying Jay a large amount of money when he didn't do anything in the business. He sat as kind of chairman of the board, if you will. He oversaw, drove strategy, really had his input. It was still his brand, marketing feedback, things that he's seen on the coaching organization with agents across the country. Hey, look at this, because you got to remember at the time in Lawton, Oklahoma, we were the test bunny, man. It was the factory. And so we were testing things on an ongoing basis that really built the framework and foundation for Kinder Reese coaching. And we made that huge mistake. We also made a huge mistake that we had additional people on salary that we just flat out couldn't afford. And so we had to make those hard decisions. So pay yourself a market-based wage. All right. And the tool that we've always used for this is salary.com. I think there's maybe some resources on Glassdoor, but salary.com, you can get kind of a range of your organization based upon revenue, and then, your geographical location, and it'll give you a ballpark of kind of where you need to be. It's a good framework. Now, there's some things and adjustments that you would look at. You would like, okay, we are, you have to, once you look at it, you're like, does this support my current lifestyle? And, sometimes it's no. And then you're like, okay, well, if I adjust and pay myself more, you just have to understand where that number is going to come from. And when we look through this, you'll see, but I'll go ahead and tell you, it comes from profitability. So if you're paying yourself more than a market-based wage, it's got to come from somewhere, and where it's going to come from, it's going to come from the bottom line. to whereas you might have been 15, 20% profitable, net profit before taxes, that might suck it down 5 or 10% less. And it's okay, but you just have to understand what it's going to impact. All right. So paying yourself a market-based wage is number one that you got to get under control within your business. And so here's some challenges that we all need to understand. We get a salary for what we do. We get a return on what we own, right? Salary for what you do, a return for what you own, right? Head of your company that is not in sales is not going to make as much as if you were in sales. There is nothing in this business that pays you more than closing deals, period. Okay? Salary-wise, business, return on what you own. How do you set this up to where this is a perpetual money printing machine? And if you want your business to print money for you, then there's right things, right order. Skipping steps only presents the illusion of speed. Right things, right order, and set it up this way. And getting on a market-based wage is one of the first steps. Challenge, net income is lying to you. Why? Because you're not paying yourself a market-based wage, right? I love hearing all of these ego-driven individuals out there beating their chest is like, yeah, my company is making X in profit. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. So let me see. And I always have ringing, when people start talking about their numbers, I always ring in the back of my head, right? I just hear Jay-Z, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Let's take a look. And first thing that I go to is, well, how much are you paying yourself? And, a lot of the time it's like, well, whatever's left. So then you're at zero net profit. If you're paying everything that's left, you're wiping it clean every month, then your company's making nothing. And kind of a head scratcher is like, no, it's making this. This is what I'm taking. It's like, yeah, but you ain't paying yourself a market-based wage. So you've got to get clear on what this is and structure it up that way so we can really talk true profitability of your organization. One of the things that you can start to do when you do this is you can be a more demanding employee, right? What does the industry say you're worth? Okay. And then you can also be a more demanding shareholder. It's like, what do shareholders care about? Profitability and growth. What are we doing to be more profitable, and what are we doing to grow? And so it's just really cool, two different lenses to really look through when it comes to how to properly structure your organization. Sweat equity. Oh boy, this is, I failed to articulate this in a way that I think makes more sense for everybody listening in when we talk about this. So I'm going to really try to unpack this better than I've ever unpacked it before for you guys, and really, really hear me out. And I think this will help as you're going through this process and starting to set this up. So the question then becomes, well, the market says I'm worth 100 G's, but my business can only afford to pay me 30. What does that mean? Well, one, it's a below market wage. All right. Your business is not in a position to be able to do that just yet. And we got to work towards it. So now we know what we're working towards. We're at 30. We know we need to get 100. So what has to happen in the meantime? Sweat equity in the real estate business that makes for you guys to really understand is that you want to cover that difference, right? It's like, well, it says I'm worth 100. It can only afford to pay me 30, but I need about 60 to survive. Let's just use that for simple numbers. So in that scenario, it tells me that I'm 30,000 short. So sweat equity on the real estate side of things would be, okay, the business is going to be set up to pay me 30,000, but guess what? I'm also going to be in production. And my deals are going to have to pay me that difference that I need to live. So if we say, well, man, I need to be about 30,000 difference, we can get the business, continue to grow the business. And then, we're going to be able to transition to that 100K mark as fast as we can. So then I'm just going to reverse engineer. It's like, okay, well, I need to do 40 deals, or I need to do, 48 deals. Let's say I need to do 4 deals a month. I need to do 3 deals a month. Okay. Let's just say that. And then you figure, what is your average transaction price? If I'm doing 36 deals, I'm trying to cover, another 30,000 or so, then maybe it's going to be 10, 15, 20% of every one of those transactions of mine that close need to pay me. So you're going to be more of a fixed salary expense at the 30,000. The variable that's going to make the difference is going to be a percentage of the deals you do. So you're going to set it up that way to where every deal that you close, you're going to capture 20% of that. And here's the thing, guys. Compensation drives behavior. I want you to write that down. I want you to understand it fundamentally at the core. This is a foundational principle in anything in life. Compensation drives behavior. So if you know you need to do more deals to get the business into a healthy financial position, then you need to structure it to where you're going to get a percentage of those deals, because that's where you need your attention and focus. That's not going to bleed the company to its deathbed. Okay. So, you're going to set it up that way. You're going to adjust it as we get closer to that 100K mark, to where the company's growing and it's able to pay you more of a salary. And we're trying to back you out of production a little bit, but that is the sweat equity formula. What can the company of business afford to pay you in the current structure? And what is the difference that we're going to offset in your production that is a smaller percentage to allow you to get paid where you need to be, and drive the revenue that's going to grow your organization. So that's the proper way to set up sweat equity within your real estate business. And hopefully that made sense. If not, you guys can message me. We can talk through it percentage-wise, how to structure it, and just kind of how you back into making sure that you're getting paid where you need to be able to maintain your lifestyle, live where you need to, what you need to do so you can focus on continuing to grow your organization forward. The next little thing to kind of think about is if you're in a multi-shareholder company, meaning you have a business partner. And one of the things that I want you to take away is that no 2 individuals are worth exactly the same amount of money, period. If you have one predominant business owner that is doing a bulk of what's driving the revenue versus one of the business partners, maybe that's a complement that is really, structured, process driven, or in that operator role that's just executing, those are different. They're not the same dollar amount. And that's where I see a lot of partnerships set themselves up for failure, is that they both say they're going to pay themselves the same thing. And when we do that, resentment will set in, and it'll be tick for tat. And it will be, well, I did 10 deals this month and you did 2. And how in the hell are we going to get paid the same thing? Right? So you have to understand, and that's what this goes back to the market-based wage, right? Somebody that's predominantly sales driven in a sales organization versus running operations, you run it through the salary cap, run it through the salary.com, run it through that formula, they're not going to be the same. So don't think that you have to pay your guys' selves the same. What you could do is you could say, well, go back to the sweat equity piece, right? It's like, hey, the company, this is kind of where I need to be. This is where you need to be. And then we're going to give you a percentage of override of the deals you do to offset, because the company can't afford to pay you. Your job is to drive sales. Let's give you a little incentive to drive sales. Maybe you're taking 5-10% of every deal, whatever the math works out to be. I'm just trying to give you guys the framework. You're going to have to do the math yourself, period. But I just want you to take away that no 2 individuals are worth exactly the same amount. Okay. Head of company, CEO, has to be the defined leader, right? Here's the way we're going. and this is how I'm going to behave. I'm going to influence you to move in that direction. Okay. So it's really, really important for you guys to understand that, especially if you're in a partnership dynamic, that, you know, we've got to make sure that we're getting compensated for what we do. And yeah, this is a little Gregism. As you go through the book, you'll see a bunch of his little Gregisms, but fair does not mean equal, right? And fair does not mean equal. So the next little thing to pay attention to, you know, we understand, you know, hey, market-based wage, paying ourselves, labor productivity. Labor productivity is the absolute key to really maximizing the profitability in your business. We understand the salary cap concept, which I'm going to take you guys through. The NFL teams use it as well. I will also take you guys through, you know what? I'm going to show you guys examples of when we made the switch 2012, 2013 of how it changed our business. Just to give you guys some context, before Greg, 2011, we were going through this. We ended the year at a negative 3% net profit before taxes. Yep, negative 3%. We lost money and we did over $1 million in revenue. So I want to show you guys the actual numbers and the spreadsheet that Greg had us use. It's called the Cube. If you guys are familiar with it, if you've gone through any of our stuff, then you know what the Cube is. And go through the Cube. I'm going to show that. We should have plenty of time. I'll take you guys and show you that. I'll have to pull it up. But I want to show you guys that. I think it'll be really, really powerful. So here's the salary cap formula. It's real, super, super simple. Okay. We want to, and you can write this down on your paper. What I would do is I would just move non-salary costs above salaries, because in our non-salary costs is going to be our commissions paid, right? And we'll talk about that in just a second. So we have revenue, and then we have pre-tax profit. And all you have to do, you just start with those two numbers. So if you're on a track and you know you're going to run $1 million in revenue, includes GCI, transaction fees, vendor income dollars coming in directly to you, not offsetting marketing expenses. That's different. I'm talking about actual revenue coming into your bank account, into your organization. If you're running rev share, if you're dumping rev share in there, you got to factor it in. I would challenge you not to do that. I would challenge you to keep that completely separate, because it's going to skew your percentages of your numbers. I would keep rev share completely separate. I would look at it as a different business entity in itself. So run this, just looking on those core numbers of revenue coming in, and then hit your pre-tax profit number. I would say, you know, it depends on a couple things. Pre-tax profit number depends on a couple variables. It's going to be higher if you're in production at a high level, and it is going to be higher if you're in a higher price point market. Above 250, it's going to start to have a real impact. You get up to that half million range, it's going to have an even more impact. And this is why we've always said that, you know, in the high price point markets, you get rewarded for bad behavior. You really do. When you're in a low price point market, you know, you pay more attention to the details. I's dotted, T's crossed. And by the way, details matter. So if you can embrace this concept and you're in a high price point market, it just allows you to grow faster, right? Growth sucks cash. So it just allows you to grow faster is essentially what happens. So base your numbers here. So once you have those two starting blocks, your rev target and your net profit before tax, then we know what we have left, right? So this is the salary cap. This means we've got $900,000 to put the best team on the field in salaries and non-salary expenses, facilities, communication, marketing, all our dues, subscriptions, coaching, just everything else, right? Goes in there. But if you stay disciplined to this format, we got $900,000 to play with. Okay. This is structuring your salary cap in the right way. So we do the math, we look back and we're like, okay, well, I have fixed expenses. My non-salary costs are going to run $400,000. Real simple math. That leaves me 500 for salaries. Real simple. Okay. And when we went through this, this was where it was eye-opening because our salaries were out of whack. And that's where we had to make the adjustments. And when we did that, we had the turnaround really quick into 2012. And what was cool was that 2012 was the first year that we started our mastermind. And Brett Jennings was in our very first mastermind. He's in Silicon Valley. And he just posted right before this episode in our NAEA members only Facebook group. He posted, he's at the hotel in Aspen where we did the first mastermind. And it was kind of cool. And it was really cool that he shot that video. But we started to showcase this in all of our mastermind events. We did three that year, and we showed them our numbers. What I'm going to show you guys here in a little bit, we showed them in 2012, 2013, 2014 and on. And it was because of this formula right here, we had that turnaround. And I'll let you guys see the numbers for yourself, what the turnaround was in 12 and then 13 as well. So cost of sales. So that's why I said, we need to know these numbers as well. So cost of sales, cost of goods sold include all of the expenses that are involved in making our awesome product or delivering our incredible service, by definition of what that is. So what we throw in that cost of sales bucket is our split to our broker, splits that we pay our agents, incoming referral fees, if any type of franchise royalty fees. We throw photography for our listings, the staging that we pay for. And the reason we put it in there is because we charge that through transaction fees, right? There's a fee associated with that. There's a revenue associated with that goes to pay for those things. So what we're really trying to get down to is gross margin. Revenue is vanity. Got to get that through your heads, right? Revenue is a vanity number. Gross margin is the number that you want to pay attention to. And gross margin is just sales minus those direct costs. And what's left over are what we have to profitability, pay for all of our salaries, pay for all of those fixed expenses, the marketing and everything to grow those revenues. That's the number, right? I said there's only a handful of numbers you need to pay attention to. Yeah, you want rev because percent is based, profitability, gross margin, how much are we keeping after those cost of sales, and then our expense buckets. There's only a handful of numbers, guys, that you got to pay attention to. And I know what happens, you high D drivers, you get overwhelmed, eyes glazed over when you start to look and dissect the numbers. You're like, what the hell do I look at? There's too much shit here. True. That's why there's only a handful of numbers that really matter. And when you understand what they are, and then what drives them, and if you have to at that point, then you can go deep, but you don't have to. Most of the time you can just look and you can tell where the problem is. Pre-tax profit, single most important number in our business. Company's earnings before tax as a percentage of total sales or revenues. The higher the pre-tax profit margin, the more profitable the company. Super, super simple. All right, the cube. All right, cool. So give me 2 seconds here while I pull, man, that was some serious Texas swine right there. What the hell did that come from? Cube. So let me pull 2012. I'm going to pull 2013. Let me pull up a blank one. I'm going to pull up a blank one first for you guys. Hopefully this is resonating with some of you. Hopefully it's helping. Kind of maybe it's, hearing it again, it's helping. Maybe this is like light bulbs are going off, and this is kind of helping you to structure what you currently have going on. So, and if you guys have any questions, throw them into the Q&A, the chat. If you're following us live here on Facebook, throw it in the comments. If you're watching this later on, throw a comment. Definitely follow back up with you guys. But I'm going to take us into, I'm going to share my screen with you guys again. And I'm going to share with you guys the cube. All right, cool. So here's the cube. And before we jump in, actually, stretch that out. Maybe that helps. So, this is the cube analysis spreadsheet. Nothing fancy at all, but it's going to give us the analytic and the data that we need to make the decisions to continue to grow our business. So let's talk through cube categories, and then I'm going to take you back in time to the first full year that we implemented Greg's strategies, which was 2012 and then 2013. So you can see the tremendous impact. Now remember, 2011, the first year that we went independent and not knowing these fundamentals, we finished the year -3. -3. Surprised that we even delayed paying vendors, negotiating with getting compensated with employees, not getting paid. We all know that hard feeling as business owners of what we have to go through. So here's the buckets. So income, right? Revenue, top line, commissions earned, transaction fees, affiliate vendor income. If you do any property management or any type of lease income, any type of income that you have obviously goes in the rev bucket. Cost of sales. So cost of sales go out with commissions paid, referral fees paid, broker, royalty, listing expenses. We just talked about that. The next bucket is direct labor, right? So we talked gross margin, right? Gross profit. There's another line that Greg gets into that really breaks down, that's really important, and it's called contribution margin. And so contribution margin is the number after we pay direct labor. So you're like, okay, cool. Well, what the hell is direct labor? Direct labor is any type of hourly salary wage that you're paying for any type of function, any type of human being, any type of service that more than 50% of their time is spent on revenue driving activities. So you'll see the admin bucket and the direct labor bucket. Try not to split them up. Okay. Try not to split them up. Now there is an exception there. That's another conversation. If you're like Kitch, I spend half of my time in production, half of my time head of company leading the organization. I'm trying to back out of production, but I'm going to stay and maintain head of company duties. How do we need to structure my compensation? Hit me up and we'll talk through that if that's where you're at in the stages of your business, because then we will break it up at that point and look at at what point can we reallocate those dollars that you're in direct labor to somebody else and make sure that you're going to be okay personally by taking that pay cut. Because that's essentially what's about to happen when you get out of production. And that's where most people fail. You'll get what we call the bitch slap. You want to know about it, hit up Jay Kinder, hit up Al Stasic. They will tell you about that and why that is. And that is because you pay yourself from your business, and then when you get out of production, you don't adjust your compensation. You keep paying yourself the same thing, thinking miraculously that the deals are just going to happen. It's going to take care of itself. No, when that happens, you're out of whack in the salary cap. You get paid less when you get out of production. I hope you guys understand that. Okay. You get paid for what you do. You make profits and earnings on what you own. You own the business. So direct labor is more than 50% of the time is allocated directly to income. So the ISA, right? ISA is setting appointments that will come back in commissions earned and transaction fees. They're direct labor. If you have a listing agent on any type of salary, compensation, fixed salary cost, direct labor. we have our listing coordinator in here. I would not recommend it. The only reason, and we ran this by Greg, the only reason that we put our listing coordinator in direct labor is because we had our listing coordinator certified negotiation expert training. And we had delegated for years the offer negotiation process off of our plate. Our listing coordinator negotiated all of our deals. And so we went through all the certification and training. And when we talked with Greg about it, he's like, if she's negotiating all of your listings, then yeah, I would put her in direct labor. So that's what we did. We put her in there. At the time, back in the day, we had REO department, we had short sale department. They were directly responsible for the REO revenue. They were directly responsible for the short sale revenue. They were direct labor. Your next bucket is going to be facilities and communication. Obviously, anything that falls in facilities bucket, communication bucket, marketing, anything marketing bucket, admin labor. So any of your labor dollars that are not direct labor go into admin labor. And then other expenses. I'm not a fan of other expenses, but for this worksheet, this workbook, they all go into that bucket. Now, here's what we did. We used QuickBooks, and we set up our chart of accounts in alignment to these buckets. And we would then create custom reports on these particular buckets. So at any given time, we could say, hey, print me up the marketing report for the last 30 days, right? Print me up the marketing report in the other expense report for the last, for year to date, right? We could go back and we could look through. And so in the chart of accounts, there was no such thing as other, but in this format, the other expenses is everything else. Hopefully that made sense. I know I'm getting down in the weeds, but hopefully that made sense for you guys listening in. And that's the buckets. That's the buckets, right? So, within this worksheet, we go through, we set up our plan, and then, we're able to, when the data's in, we're able to evaluate it month over month, year to date, and according to the plan to see where we're at. So cool. All right. 2012, right? We did 1.25 in revenue out of the Lawton office back in 2012. This was our first, 2011 was independent, -3. 2012, 14.4. 17% turnaround. At that year, average sales price, I think, was 118. It was under 120 average sales price. We did 1.25 in revenue, and we paid out 400 in commissions, meaning we kept 68% of the dollars. Now keep in mind, I maybe did a handful of deals that year, maybe, and primarily with a couple builders that we had. And I think, a few flips that we had, remodel flips that we had. So, and Kinder as well. I would say that out of the production, maybe 24, the most that we did, that was associated to our name, that was 100% commission coming to the house. But we were able to keep 68%. And you say, well, how did, where was that? Well, we had the salaries, right? So this is where we were going down the rabbit hole of the salary model. And, we had our all of these functions on salaries. And then that left us understanding that we were keeping 57 cents of every dollar of revenue to go towards profit and the operating expense. And so this was really, really eye-opening. You can see the plan on the left, and it was a shot in the absolute dark. Those were just our assumptions. And you can see where we ended up actual, right? We were 75%, super happy to be at 68. So that took into consideration, the little bit of the difference with the contribution margin. And then we get down into the operating expense buckets. Now, one of the cool things that I want to point out here, and when you look at it this way, this is really, really eye-opening. This will really help you understand what's going on in your business. The biggest one, obviously those, but the marketing bucket. The marketing bucket. Ideally, your marketing percent to revenue is 10% or less. The more of a referral-based organization, word of mouth, people that know you, like you, love you, trust you, that percent number is going to be lower, okay? And here's the goal. The goal is to set that at about 10% and hold it and grow revenues. And when you grow revenue and you hold that expense as a number, then the percentage number will continue to drop. And that's the goal. That's really what you want your marketing doing for you, is how can we, the marketing spend that's growing revenue, but driving marketing percent as a revenue down. That's the number that we're looking at. That's the number when work with clients that get these numbers in place to where we have the visibility. That's where I go to that right there, because I know how can we make that work for us to grow revenue, and how do we get that to shrink? So that's one of the ways to grow your organization, by looking at this. What is it telling us? Is looking there, the labor efficiency, labor dollar, how much are we getting back for every labor dollar spent, is telling us, and you look at our labor efficiency rate, meaning, we were doing good, right? We were getting a good return on our labor dollar. Other expenses, there, usually that's where things will creep up on you. So you gotta keep an eye on it. That's why you want to have the other reports to go into the details, because that number will throw you off. We set a pre-talk, keep in mind, right? We were negative, but we set our goal at 14.4. We were really happy with that. So then what happens going into the next year? We do less in revenue. We drive the marketing percent down, and we maintain the same net profit before tax, 14.5. So we missed our target. And a couple different variables that year. I started coaching in 2012. So, that my client base grew. So it sucked a lot more of my time. There, a lot of different variables in there, but as you can see, the model and the visibility into this really helped us in really nailing the organization, and just focused on efficiencies, not throwing money at problems. What's the system? What's the process? Holding tight to the salary cap. We were maximizing the dollars that we were spending on our, from a labor efficiency ratio. It was really cool. We were able to drive that to 70%. Our contribution margin dropped a little bit. So just a few things in there to kind of pay attention to, but it was really cool to be able to see the turnaround almost like that, by having a great framework to be able to work with. And so, just really cool when you understand that what can happen. And, like old Ricky Rose, I'm from where your hustle determines your salary. And that's the absolute truth. So awesome. Cool. Hopefully you guys got some nuggets, a little bit of wisdom, a little more clarity on how to really structure and set up your business, and run it like a dang business. And it really helps to be able to pay attention to it and see what you see. So cool. Well, really appreciate you guys. And, for all of you guys listening in, if this kind of resonates, you want a little more insight, hit me up. Any questions, anything that I can help you with, please share. And also any big takeaways for you. I know as a presenter and having all of our guests on these episodes. It means a lot to them. It means a lot to us that you guys are seeing value in these Expert Mentors live episodes and series that we've got going on, and appreciate you guys and can't wait to see you guys on the next episode. See ya.